All right, 25th of June 2025, exactly 1 year later since the Gen Z revolt of 2024. It started off as a simple day just like this one, a bit chilly in the morning. By the end of the day, it was bullets, blood and tears. Will we witness the same today? This is the Morning Cafe, and that will be the biggest discussion today. My name is Freddie Ndimuli.
I'll be joined by the youth later on the show to have that discussion. Are we having purposeful demonstrations today? My name is Ann Odida. This is Morning Cafe. Karibu sana.
Yes, and all the dailies in Kenya are talking about this. Of course, we start off with the Standard. Aluta Continua is the biggest discussion there, is the biggest headline. And they've splashed images of quite a number of people among the 60 who perished on that fateful day last year.
The Daily Nation speaks of the same, the ones we lost, all on the front page of the Daily Nation. Something similar on the front page of the People Daily, why Gen Z blood will haunt Ruto, and also splashing the images of those people who died last year. It's been given coverage, and we'll be back to take a look at this acres and acres inside the pages of our dailies this morning. Taifa leo itakuwaje ni swali wanauliza hapo. Big test for Ruto, police over demos. And then they say 1 year on, bullets, blood and tears. Also images there of those people who perished. Finally, Business Daily, top owners lose 14 billion shillings in trans-century East African cable. And that's the only paper that is not talking about the anniversary of the Gen Z protests. We'll be back to take a look at this in depth because this is a main discussion and we cannot ignore it. Probably that's the reason why I have a black tie on today and a black dress. Period. You know it. Yes, on State of the Nation today, MPs Nabina Bwera, Joe Nyoto and Titus Lote. Titus Lote is MP Kachiliba. Joe Nyoto is a Senator Muranga, and Nabina Bwera is a MP Lugari constituency. They will be in studio starting at 6:30 this morning as we discuss this big headlines. Tuvuke boda tuone wengine wanazungumzia nini. Oh, before that. Yes, that conversation I was talking about, Gen Z Revolt, 1 year later we'll be having this young gentlemen and ladies to talk about a year later, anniversary. Why are we back on the streets and what is the goal this time around? All right. So in Uganda, they're talking about something different. Hold hands and pray, Museveni tells the world. And this is all about the Israel-Iran war, you know, and in Uganda, they are really worried. In Kenya, ni kama tulimove on, ni kama tutishi, tushazoea hiyo mambo. So President Museveni yesterday weighed into the weighty issue of the Israel-Iran conflict, going back in time on some history of the war, and why he thinks the world needs to bow down in prayer as a way of ending the battle that is threatening world peace and business. And this story has been given quite some prominence, pages 4 and 5 of the Daily Monitor. Pale chini wanazungumzia ex-flying squad operative crying out for Kayihura help. And these are some of the policemen who are now being arraigned for the murder of Kalesi. Yes. And this murder happened, Kagezi, Joan Kagezi. It happened 15 years ago. Now they're being arraigned. And some of them were simple constables back in the day. Na tunawaambia hata polisi wa Kenya, chunga sana, this could happen to you. 10 years later, you're still being arraigned. You're still being arraigned over some of your actions while in your younger days, probably simply answering to orders from your superiors. Paleju, the court in Uganda has allowed the trial of a Ugandan woman in Kenya over drugs. The court yesterday okayed the transfer of a Ugandan woman wanted in Kenya to face charges of drug trafficking. And yes, Uganda is one of those countries that have extradition treaties with Kenya. Staying in Uganda. New Vision, the woman MP we want. Respondents were asked an open-ended question: who do you think should be this area's next district woman MP? And all the women are here on the front page of the New Vision. Hata Museveni hajapata space today. All of them are here. Na Anita Among, wakiuliza swali Anita Among lazima, she has to be among them. Among has to be among them. I see what you did there. Other stories here: family rules out foul play in Kampala doctor's death.
Students loan scheme applications open in Uganda, and another operative charged with Kagezi murder. That's the new all right, that's story on Iran. Iran-Israel war, Museveni offers solution.
It's a big story there. Alafu wako na export. 2 days to go. Tips on intimacy. I tell you, this is the time I'd want to be a Uganda.
Oh, napenda mapi.
No, surely the kind of discussions they're having are very positive. Who would you want to be a woman MP? Yeah? Tips on intimacy. Yeah. Solutions for Iran.
Very peaceful country, this one.
I tell you, Uganda, muna bahati sana. We cross the border into Tanzania and we start off with the Citizen. Progressive discussions here. Private sector set for role in electricity distribution. The government says it is in the final stages of opening the door to private investment in electricity transmission for the first time, marking a new milestone in Tanzania's efforts to deepen private sector participation in the country's energy sector. Something positive there. Digital campaigns gather pace ahead of elections. Wameingia mitandaoni. Jirani sasa wanajua jinsi ya kutumia mitandao. Lakini pale juu kuna minister amesema, minister vows decisive actions against defiant social media platforms. Jirani bado wako nyuma kiasi. Government response to key issues as budget sails through. Kule ni kama hata debate ya budget kama sisi hapa wa Kenya, pia wale ni kama hawana neno. Budget impita hiyo, we don't really care.
Sawa, ni kama hawananga maneno ya budget.
Hawajai kuwa na shida, unaambia nani? Why Tanzania's fertilizer hub dream is closer to reality. Quite some positive headlines on the front page of the Citizen. Na pia final showdown as Yanga and Simba meet in league title decider. They are always the ones to decide who is the winner between Yanga and Simba. Wale wengine kule, hao ndio farasi wawili, wengine ni punda na paka. That's a Citizen.
Tukisalia kule Bongo, gazeti la Mwananchi, mkeka wa Samia moto majimboni, awapa fursa wakuu wa mikoa na watendaji wanaotajwa kutaka ubunge. Wadau wa siasa waeleza watakavyoongeza joto, huku Chama cha Mapinduzi ikipiga marufuku mikutano ya watiania na wajumbe wa kura za maoni. Habari kamili katika kurasa wa 15, anasema kwamba mkuu wa mkoa ana ushawishi lakini anaogopwa kwa nafasi yake. Ukimwacha na nafasi yake, kuna uwezekano akachaguliwa kwa sababu ya ukuu wa mkoa alionao, lakini ukimuondoa unaruhusu watu wampime kwa uhalisia wake. Ni kauli ya Kiama Mwaimu.
Sema yeyote ambaye ni afisa wa serikali na anataka kuwania kiti cha ubunge lazima aondoke.
I think we also have that here in Kenya.
Yes. And there's a period before which you have to exit. Yeah.
Wataalamu waeleza sababu za kukosa hedhi. All right, that is an interesting story on page 6. Mwigulu ajibu hoja za deni, bajeti ya pita, matters budget, and on the top strip, simulizi ya saa 5 ngumu ndani ya mwendo kasi, na mzozo baina ya Iran, Israel na mtikisiko wa dunia.
Yes, these two countries had Donald Trump cursing live on camera yesterday. He used the F word live. And now all networks, because they still had to broadcast, so all the networks were issuing apologies before airing that clip. But they had to, because he said it. Well, hizi ndizo habari zilizopewa kipaumbele katika eneo na kanda ya Afrika Mashariki. Tutarejelea kuangazia magazeti hapa nchini. Because mostly we are talking about these headlines and even some business. But now, turejelea hapa nyumbani tuangazie hali ya anga. Ndio tujue kuna kaa namna gani. Na tukiangalia bara la Afrika, mawingu sio mengi kama kule Asia. A bit of cloud cover on the western side of the DRC, heading towards Gabon, areas around Nigeria, a bit of it heading towards Ivory Coast and into the Atlantic Ocean. It looks like a line crossing like that. East Africa, not much cloud cover, but it is there. It's only that you can't see, not as heavy as the other parts that I've mentioned. A bit of cloud cover on the western side of Ethiopia. The cloud cover that had been over the Lake Victoria appears to have disappeared, but a bit of dots here and there over Kenya and Tanzania as well. Tukuje tuangazie, we start from the northern part of Kenya, and this is Marsabit. Hali ya hewa mpaka wametupatia katika Kiswahili. Sasa ni kama leo utasema mawingu kiasi. Lakini nyusi 19. 19 degrees Celsius as we speak. Highs of 26 degrees there. Ni kama wajui maneno ya mvua, lakini wamesema hali joto ni kama 23. Mawingu kiasi kule Marsabit. Down south of the coast,
23 degrees in Mombasa, slight rain, highs of 26 degrees. Precipitation huku leo at 40%.
All right.
Yes.
Areas around Lake Victoria, we start in Kisumu, 18 degrees Celsius, mawingu sana sana, a bit cloudy today, hali joto ni kama 18, nyusi, highs of 27 degrees, kunyesha 20% kule, 10%, no rainfall there, so come back to the area around the mountain.
Murang'a 15 degrees, mawingu sana sana, cloudy day, highs of 15 degrees, hali joto 15 degrees, highs of 24 degrees. This is Murang'a. Precipitation in Murang'a today is 20%.
All right, and finally Nairobi, I know there'll be a lot of cloud cover that is generated by the tear gas. Kutakuwa na mawingu, it's 13 degrees Celsius as we speak. Mawingu, hali joto ya saini kama 13, but highs of 23 degrees, which is a bit chilly even for Nairobi. No rainfall expected, 10%, but humidity will be very high at 89%. So that's the weather situation. Let's take a look at the traffic, and indeed we have so many reports of quite a number of police roadblocks on the major tributaries into the CBD. And this is in anticipation of the demonstrations later in the day. And you can see even on Jogoo Road, even according to the Google Maps, it's already showing you this. Ni kama leo tutajaribu tuone kama hii teknolojia itatusaidia kweli kweli. Kuambia kule kuna roadblocks. It's taking time though. Yes. Upper. That's along Jogoo Road. Just before you get to the City Stadium roundabout, there is something. On Ngong Road, just before you get to the City Mortuary roundabout, another roadblock there by police. Another one I'm told is actually at... now the problem is you can't move this map.
With technology.
Technology. Another one is here at Muthaiga, but I don't know if we can be able to do that now because it takes a bit too long to load. But yes, around here in Muthaiga, there's one more. And on Thika Road, yes, further up, there's another one. On Mombasa Road, yes, kuna ingine pale. Hapa ni wapi? Hapa ni as you enter the CBD. Yes, hapo ni ndani ya town. So you can see how many roadblocks so far. We can see 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3 just getting into town, coming from Ngong Road and Valley Road. 1 coming from Thika Road and Kiambu Road, and 1 coming from Jogoo Road. I'm sure on the other side, formed one around Nyayo Stadium roundabout. There's another one there. People have had to walk, including our cameraman, Momanyi. Amesema yeye imebidi atembee kaguu moja moja.
Momanyi will not hear the last one.
So quite a number of roadblocks, and this will affect traffic this morning, understandably so. And all this is in anticipation of the demonstrations leo by the Gen Zs. So we'll be back, take a look, and you can actually see. Jogoo Road pale Makadara hata hakuna traffic. Watu ni kama wameamua today is a public holiday. Yes, angalia barabara zote ni green. There's no red anywhere apart from where we have the roadblocks. So that's the traffic situation at exactly 12 minutes past 6.
All right, let's take a look at the quote of the day.
Your potential is limitless, but it requires consistency and belief in yourself. Every small step forward, no matter how difficult, gets you closer to your dreams.
All right, and we start off with the Daily Nation. We talk about the ones we lost. 60 of them, the number, and with images of some of the people who died during the Gen Z protests last year on June 25th, including their names. That's the Daily Nation. They've included the names there on the front page and more coverage on pages 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. It is the main discussion, nothing else. They talk about echoes of June 25th. 1-year-old family still crying for justice after protest deaths. Day house was breached. You have my full support, Ruto tells police on protests. He did not mention any young Kenyan. He just talked about police and how he loves the police and how the police are good people and how they will do this and the other for police yesterday. Kwani kuna shida na polisi? Mbona unakaa ni kama unabembeleza sana leo? Hizi siku zingine mbona wazungumzi namna hii?
Lakini alisema you people should not intimidate the police.
Anyway, yes, but that was a sentiment expressed by the president yesterday. He said the government is in full support of the police. Meanwhile, the IG says police will do their work within the law. Tales of courage, abduction strengthened our resolve. That's page 6. Page 7, victims nurse lifelong injuries, seeking justice. Some of them lost their limbs. And I've seen pictures of people without some of their legs, which had to be amputated. How inspectorate officers bravery saved City Hall is another story. I think the first story that is away from matters protest is on page 8. Suspect in Ojwang's case linked to another murder. And your police wanatetewa. So that's the main discussion there on the Daily Nation. And on the back page, you talk about Kenya's very finest begin chase for national glory. KCB Bank gives 8 million sponsorship to Athletics Kenya. And that's the Daily Nation.
All right. The Standard Aluta continue, a nation still on a black background. A nation bleeds. What began as a cry against punitive taxes erupted into the country's deadliest protest wave in decades. From the brutal killing of 29-year-old Rex Masai to the execution-style shooting of 12-year-old Kennedy Onyango, police turned guns on unarmed youth, demanding justice, dignity, and a future. Over 60 confirmed dead, hundreds injured, dozens disappeared, and still not a single officer held to account. A year later, promises remain hollow, grief festers, and the Gen Z movement stands as a defiant indictment of a regime that met courage with bullets and silence with lies. The story has been given coverage on pages 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10.
And you see the way we were saying that many people have been using the front page of the Standard as a placard for the protests. Now today it's even wider because that image spreads to the back page. So it's the entire front and back page of the Standard talking about the foreign heroes and Aluta Continua. Their images posted there, images and names posted there on the front and back page of the Standard.
Rex Kanyiki here was the first victim. His anniversary was the other day, on Monday. Inside this newspaper, from the flag waving to medics on duty, matters of historic protest, a year of silence for kin missing their loved ones. Another story here, Western envoys warn against hiring goons to disrupt protest. Police maimed and killed Gen Z protesters, calling out ruling elite. MP put to task as others issue more threats.
You know this MP, now that you're there, Tiati MP William Kamket,
We saw him.
he actually, in Parliament yesterday, was calling himself Prince of Peace. He's the one who said he's going to bring youth from Pokot. And the Speaker had to correct him because he does not understand the phrase Prince of Peace and who it refers to. And you see the Speaker is very religious, and it Papa Roma. So this guy kept the MP kept referring to himself as I'm a Prince of Peace. Kambwa, order. Bwana Kamket, you can call yourself a peaceful man, you can call yourself anything else, but not the Prince of Peace. I don't think he got it. If you don't get it, forget about it.
Ruto says he is proud of police conduct, vows to stand by them. The president said the police are professional and operate within the law.
But I wonder, but why did he feel the need to keep repeating that? Because today is a big day, and he would have called for sobriety, he would have called for peaceful protests, he would have called for anything, but he decided just to say that he'll be behind the police, the affordable housing, 20% of that will be given to police, everything just saying our police force. And then there were rumors online, unverified though, that the police are not so happy
with the kind of treatment they've been receiving in the past few weeks. Because yes, so many people are accused of malpractice within the police service, but who ends up in court? The junior officers.
Oh, yeah.
The senior officers on a slide. That is why probably he was trying to appease them.
All right, so even as the president says, the police are professional and they operate within the law, Raila Odinga here says he's asking Kenyans to avoid vilifying police officers, stressing the need to support them in maintaining peace and order. Don't stress the police.
Hawataki stress.
Hawataki stress. Douglas Kanja, Inspector General of Police, is saying we urge members of the public to avoid acts that may provoke our officers.
The issue is, why are we making it about the police?
Well,
why is the IG, the president, the former prime minister just making it about the police? The story is we're marking 1 year since the events of June 25th. Was it about the police?
Was it? Tuambie hapo. Ojwang's Ken watch in silence as suspects deny killing teacher. They pleaded not guilty yesterday in court. Wounded and forgotten, hidden pain victims of police cruelty go through. I saw someone still has that bullet stuck kwa mwili.
Okay.
Like he's saying, even if you touch, that thigh, you'll feel that bullet. Easy talker.
Wow. And this one here has one of his limbs amputated. Remember, there was also a police officer who got injured. He lost his hand.
Yeah.
Yeah, when he was handling tear gas canister.
How police were caught napping by Gen Z protesters in Parliament. Gen Z faces down threats in return to street marches. This is still on page 9, nothing else. Page 10, delayed justice in sensitive state. Add more pain, 2 grieving parents. There's a young man missing, and he gave an itinerary of what the Gen Zs should do today. He's missing, and the mom was crying yesterday saying, mtoto wangu mnirudishie venye mlichukua, msiniulie mtoto jamani. So you can imagine the fear that these parents have. And they're saying delayed justice, insensitive state, add more pain to grieving parents.
Right. There's that angle by the church. The Catholic Church cautioned the government yesterday against countering dissent through intimidation and violence. They told them, value human life and allow dissent. That's the bishops from the Catholic Church.
There's a question here. They're asking, is XDP's criticism of police brutality genuine?
That's on the opinion pages. Do you think it is?
Is it?
Or it's simply political expedience?
That's the standard.
All right. On the People Daily, something similar. Why Gen Z blood will haunt Ruto. The young brave Kenyans who paid the ultimate price, speaking truth to power. And their images, their pictures and names also plastered there on the front page. Of course, the biggest one or the most recognizable is Rex Masai, who was, I think, the very first person to be shot by police that fateful day. Some of them, Brian Lemayan Kasane, Beasley Kamau, Emmanuel Tata, Kelvin Odhiambo Maina, Kennedy Onyango, Chris Gitonga, David Shege, Kevin Andrew Mwawasi, and Eric Son Chalo. And the front page of this paper still dedicated through and through to these young brave Kenyans who paid the ultimate price, speaking truth to power. The story has been given prominence also on the People Daily, pages 4, 5, 6, and 7. So they also have a special coverage of the 2024 Youth Revolution Against Bad Governance, how it changed Kenya's politics and gave birth to new voices. The story is on page 17. So yes, these coverages continue, and they even have an AI-generated image of young Kenyans dressed in black and flags waving there against a backdrop of clouds of tear gas. Is this what we expect to see today again? Meanwhile, Smart Agenda, Gen Z Protest Anniversary, how we made out our way to Parliament. Because that's the other discussion, and I keep asking members of Parliament that we host here. Okay, fine. Even the precincts of Parliament were breached. How come you never discussed it after that? Even just that. Forget about the protest kule nje. Waliingia bunge na wakawatandika vita. Mbona hamuzungumzi hayo? What kind of parliament do we have? That's the People Daily.
The Star, big test for Ruto and police over demos. Police boss warns against attempt to access Parliament and State House. He said, the law is clear, protected areas should not be breached. Tuangalie ndani tujue wanasema vipi. The story is on page 6 of the Star. President William Ruto and top security officials are facing a major test as Gen Z and civil society groups prepare for nationwide demonstrations today. The demos will mark the first anniversary of the deadly June 25th protest when demonstrators breached Parliament in an unprecedented show of defiance. Now, the planned protest came against a backdrop of mounting public anger of alleged systemic police brutality, extrajudicial killings, and what many see as growing impunity among law enforcement officers. Again, the IGS said here, the National Police Service shall at all times lawfully and firmly prevent any breach of peace by any group.
And you see, just by doing what they did, the president and the IG of police yesterday, they've actually shone the spotlight on the police officers. They have taken it away from the protesters and the guys who are marking this day. It is actually on the police, putting more stress on the officers who have been accused of police brutality, some of whom are already being arraigned and have to answer questions about how they killed someone in the police cell, shot someone in Nakuru, another one in Kasarani. What effect do you think it will have on the police officers? All that pressure from the president, the police IG, saying, oh, our police officers will do their work, we support them and everything. Well, let's wait and see.
Let you jicho too. 1 year on, bullets, blood, and tears. The story is on page 4 and 5. We have them here, the June 2024 victims. Anthony, Austin, Bethany Kogi, Brian Kasaina, Caroline, David Shege, Emmanuel Giggs, Erickson Kialo, some of which we haven't seen in these other newspapers. We're talking about over 60.
It's over 60.
According to IPOA. Inside this newspaper, Ruto donates 1 million shillings to Leatherworks family. That's another story there. 6 plead not guilty in Ojwang's murder case. That includes Central Police Station OCS Samson Talam, his deputy James Mukwana, Peter Kimani, John Ngige Gitau, Jean Amito, and Brian Monike.
Yes, the name you are waiting for, Eliud Lagat, is not there.
Not
how you move on. If you don't get it, forget about it.
Gachagua, DCP governors to share 50% of jobs with party. I was tortured by police, says MP murder suspect. Courier who allegedly shot MP when he refused to plead to charges. That's the Star, fresh, independent, different.
All right. Itakuwaje ni swali kwenye ukurasa wa mbele wa Taifa Leo. Just the anticipation and the anxiety as we mark this day. Vijana wa marika au wanarika wa Gen Z waandaa maandamano ya kitaifa kwa kumbuka wenzao. Viongozi wa kanisa Katoliki, mabalozi wa nchi 12 za kigeni, wanaharakati na viongozi wa kisiasa wameitaka serikali kuzingatia haki inayolindwa kikatiba ya kuandamana na kujieleza. Wanataka matakwa ya waandamanaji wa Gen Z yasikilizwe, lakini Rais Ruto naye amehimiza polisi kusimama kidete. Polisi hajasema hata I'm calling for peaceful protest. Wewe polisi, fanya kazi. Leo kutaendaje? And you've seen what has happened in Uganda. Some junior police officers who took orders from their bosses 15 years ago. Saa ndo wanakipata. Even that statement by the envoys from 12 different countries has been posted there on the front page. We have images of police officers and the bishop speaking yesterday. Vidokezo zaidi wamesalia na makovu ya Juni 25. Kumbukumbu za maandamano ya mwaka jana bado ni donda ndugu kwa waandamanaji. Habari kamili kwenye ukurasa wa 3. Mabunge 13 yamulikwa na mhasibu. Hizi ni county ambazo hazijamaliza ujenzi wa makazi rasmi ya spika miaka 3 baada ya muda uliowekwa. Na Museveni kuwania urais tena. Itakuwa ni kwa muhula wa 7 sasa. Yeye anazungumzia mambo ya Iran na wengineko. Shaya nyima watumishi huduma. Serikali haiwasilishi michango ya watumishi wa umma kwa mamlaka ya afya ya jamii SHA kwa wakati ufao. Serikali yenyewe hailipi SHA. Kwa hivyo kama unafanyia kazi serikali, hauwezi access SHA sababu serikali yenyewe hailipi SHA. Kwenye spoti, Messi alenga kuwapeleka Miami 16 bora. Taifa Leo.
Business Daily. Top honors lose of 14 billion shillings in trans-century East African cables. Now, private equity firm Kuramo Capital and a group of Kenyan investors, including Peter Kanyago and Gishuhi Zephania Mbugwe, Eddie Njoroge and Joseph Magari, are staring at a combined loss of more than 14 billion shillings from the bankruptcy of TransCentury and its key subsidiary, East African Cables. Now, the shares of the two companies were suspended from trading on the Nairobi Security Exchange effective Monday after they were seized by the main creditor, that is the Equity Bank Kenya Limited, following defaults on a 4.7 billion shillings loans. Top honors are here: Shaka Kariuki, Eddie Njoroge, Zephania Mbugwa, all on the front page of the Business Daily. Ruto spending cut, pledge fails on 176 billion shillings extra budget. The government has struggled to enforce brutal cuts in recurrent expenditure that President William Ruto announced at the beginning of the financial year in the wake of the withdrawal of Finance Bill 2024 after deadly youth-led opposition.
I saw somewhere that the government is releasing about 30 billion shillings to the counties this week. Do you know what that happens? That money has to be spent before the end of this financial year, which is actually Monday, and we have a weekend, so we have 2 days to spend 30 billion shillings, meaning that money will simply just revert back to government. That's the trick they use. So alafu next year say, but we released the money.
Mchezo wa town.
Mwenye mbona mkutumia pesa?
Oh, wow. Now, the first budget review last year signaled a 40.51 billion shillings reduction in recurrent expenditure. On the ticker, National Oil gets 3.3 billion to clear KCB Farms debt. National Bank to pay 711 million shillings for illegal sale of customers' plots, and Treasury eyes a 50 billion shillings from first bond sale. That's the Business Daily.
All right. Tuangazie karakacha sasa, tujue watu wanazungumzia nini. Cartoon of the Star has an image of the president with the former prime minister already pocketed in his back pocket, na kuna jamaa kule chini analala tu. Huyo ni Prime CS, nasikia kwa Zambia. Ama ni Zimbabwe. Kuna CS wa interior pale na jamaa ule mwingine anasemanga yeye ni engineer. Wote wanaangalia simu ya rununu pale. Watu wameonyesha, kuna wengine wamerusha ngumi, wengine wanaonyesha vidole through the mobile phone. Now mutafanya nini? It's the question. What will you do? Like we've seen in Tanzania, they've said they'll crack down on social media. That the minister said that. Should we expect the same in Kenya? Yesterday I saw someone saying that TikTok had been muted.
Yeah.
Has it?
No. I think
those are just rumors.
Yes.
That's a Star.
The Standard, then bloodshed June 25th, 2024, and then today the streets are spiraling again.
They're actually holding the flag against the graves of those who died.
Anniversary.
Yes. That's a Standard. On the People Daily, peaceful demonstrations. So we have a police described there as a bullet, or depicted rather as a bullet, against Mama Mboga hapa amevaa a tattered piece of Kenyan flag and say, well, can I trust you today? And I think the president and police IG have just managed to put the spotlight on the police again. Kila mtu anasema, okay, fine, wacha tuone polisi watafanya nini. Sisi tuko, lakini wacha tuone polisi watafanya nini. The same police who are going to end up in court. Peaceful demonstrations, they call it.
Finally, Daily Nation, June 25th is calling here. We see a flag of Kenya.
Inaitwa nini? Ile starter kit.
Yes.
Yeah, protester.
Maji,
bottle of water, Kenyan flag, na simu.
And the DAPK leader aliwaambia, if you're coming kwa maandamano, the opposition leaders will be there. Walisema they'll be there today. All you have to carry is a flag and your phone. Sema we must.
And a bottle of water.
Okay. That's mandatory, we must remember, lest we forget. June 2025th anniversary, 1 year later.
All right. So definitely that's a big discussion. Commemorating the events, fateful events of June 25th, 2024, 1 year later. What should we expect today? We'll be having in studio Titus Lote MP Kachiliba, Joe Nyoto, Senator Muranga, and Nabina Bwera, MP Lugari constituency. Do stand by for that after the break.
Stay with us, interact with us on our socials, TV47 Kenya on Facebook and on YouTube, on X at TV47 News KE. My handle is at Ann_Odida. The hashtag is Morning Cafe.
My handle is at Fred Indimuli. See you after.
is changing every day, and so should we, for the better. Each week, we tackle the big why, the question that should be on everyone's minds. Why isn't this fixed yet? Deforestation, global warming, and the adverse effects of climate change. The future isn't just something that we inherit, it's something that we create. Join us on The Green Fix as we tell the stories of those who refuse to give up. When it comes to fixing the planet, there is no time to waste. Join me, Shiksha Arora, on Thursdays at 9 p.m. on The Green Fix as we look into the big why, you and I.
For comprehensive information and education on your health, Body Garage is here.
Don't allow anyone to pluck out your good tooth as long as it is strong and stable.
Cancer doesn't start today and you get the symptoms tomorrow. By the time you pick it or the time it is manifesting in you, probably will be there about 5 to 10 years.
The eye is the window to the rest of the body.
Don't forget to stay hydrated.
And of course, you at home do take your water.
So the ultimate test is actually you check your urine. Your urine should be clear.
Clear like the water?
Yes. Should be able to see the other side of the urine. If your urine is colored or has changed color, you cannot see the other side, then you have not taken enough water.
Don't forget regular health checkups. Early detection saves lives.
I want the message be, we can prevent cervical cancer. We prevent cervical cancer in several ways. You have young girls and even somebody who's above that age, you can pay at least every 3 years. Somebody should have a pap smear done.
If you are 40, 45, 50, going upwards, once a year, please go see a doctor. Yeah, it's just for normal routine maintenance.
Hey there, friends. Welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Jiunge nasi tunapoangazia safari za viongozi bora. Kutoka kwa ushindi mkubwa hadi masomo magumu.
Wakati wetu kwamba wasichana si wa kusoma, ni wa kuolewa, ng'ombe ipatikane, wazazi wakuwa watajiri.
Tunashughulikia yote.
I wish I were a better investor.
My parents taught me how to look for things for myself.
Tazama Mfahamu Kiongozi, ambapo kila kipindi kimejaa maarifa, mikakati na hadithi za kukuza azma yako.
For me to succeed, I have to fight.
Kila Alhamisi saa 1:30.
Our world is changing every day, and so should we, for the better. Each week, we tackle the big why, the question that should be on everyone's minds. Why isn't this fixed yet? Deforestation, global warming, and the adverse effects of climate change. The future isn't just something that we inherit, it's something that we create. Join us on The Green Fix as we tell the stories of those who refuse to give up. When it comes to fixing the planet, there is no time to waste. Join me, Shiksha Arora, on Thursdays at 9 p.m. on The Green Fix as we look into the big why, you and I.
For comprehensive information and education on your health, Body Garage is here.
Don't allow anyone to pluck out your good tooth as long as it is strong and stable.
Cancer doesn't start today and you get
The National Police Service, established under Article 243 of the Constitution of Kenya 2010, acknowledges its significant mandate to ensure public safety and national security. The service is apolitical with operational independence under the Office of the Inspector General of Police. And it is obligated under Article 244A and C of the Constitution to strive for the highest standards of professionalism and discipline among its members and comply with the constitutional standards.
Speaking in State House, Nairobi, Tuesday, President William Ruto expressed his full support behind the country's security agencies ahead of Wednesday's planned Gen Z anniversary protests. President Ruto declaring that any attempts to intimidate or attack law enforcement officers will not be tolerated.
None of us is above the law. You cannot intimidate the police.
President Ruto urged Kenyans not to vilify the police, warning that attempts to demean or undermine them could threaten national stability.
These are our frontline defenders of our rights as Kenyans and of the right of this nation.
According to Interior CS Kipchumba Murkomen, the government is ready to meet and hold talks with the families of protest victims.
We are ready to meet their families, have a conversation with them, and see what else we can do to support them.
Murkomen also called on politicians and activists who are preventing the victims' families from engaging with the government to step aside and allow dialogue to proceed. The CS also called out politicians planning political violence in the guise of peaceful demonstrations.
But Your Excellency are sitting now planning, buying machetes and rungus, trying to distribute to young people to cause violence in town. And they want us to sit here, fold our hands, and say that that is an Article 37 of our Constitution. Your Excellency, the national police and our police officer must be ruthless in dealing with such criminals because we want this country to be a country of law and order.
Murkomen warned that the government will take stern action against such political leaders. Joash Onsare, TV 47, Nairobi.
Yes, government choosing to talk tough on this day as we anticipate the one-year anniversary of the events of June 25th, 2024. It is a big talking point on all the front pages today. A luta continua, that's the standard. Big test for Ruto, police over demos, that's a star. The ones we lost. On the front page of the People Daily, on the front page of the Daily Nation, and on the People Daily, why Gen Z blood will haunt Ruto. Meanwhile, kwenye ukurasa wa mbele wa Taifa Leo ni swali tu wanauliza itakuwaje? A lot of anxiety about what exactly will happen today, but a lot of focus from the government side on the police and other security agencies. This is the main discussion this morning. Karibu sana, you're watching Morning Cafe. My name is Fred Indemuli. Gen Z Revolt, 1 year on. In studio with me this morning, from my extreme left, Titus Lote, MP Kachiliba. It's good to have you back in studio, Bwana Lote, after a long while. Karibu sana.
Thank you. Good morning.
Next to Bwana Lute, we have Joe Nyoto, Senator Murang'a County. Karibu sana.
Thank you.
Bwana Lute, let's start even from a different angle before we even come discuss this government, because I know you come from Kacheliba, which is in West Pokot County. And one of your colleagues from the National Assembly has already declared that youth from Pokot will be brought to Nairobi to counter the protests. Do you understand that, or kindly help us clarify what exactly that is means?
Well, thank you and good morning.
Good morning.
I think you've started with a very tough question about an utterance of an individual, which is not the utterance of the community. So first, I do not understand what he says, because as far as I'm concerned, I have not seen any community being mobilized, and becoming very wrong for us to be able to single out the Pokot community. This is a community that has suffered injustice historically from all the governments. In fact, if we're talking about people, I'm looking at the headlines today and I've seen photos of people that have been killed by the regimes. If we could be allowed to be putting all the photographs of the Pokots that have suffered under the regimes of Moi, of Kenyatta the first, of even Kenyatta the second, of Kibaki, we'll definitely have like 10 pages of this. So it's a community that is not supposed to be put to this kind of tasks. In any case, Pokot community don't come to the city for anything because they do not have any businesses here. So probably that is an individual assertion, an individual utterance, which does not in any way, in any case, involve the Pokot community.
Okay. And thank you for clarifying that, even as we proceed with this conversation. The main discussion today is anticipation of what will happen today. Kenyans have decided and said, and they've even told the police service that they've notified the police service of their intention to hold demonstrations in commemoration of the events of last year. This is in public domain. The police have already indicated that they will be there, ready to provide the service and protect both life and property. But the question is, and linked to that comment by politicians, that this should not be allowed. Do you share in that, Senator Nyoto? Because quite a number of politicians have been accused, especially those from the city, of preparing goons to counter demonstrations.
Thank you, Fred, and allow me to first thank and congratulate my colleague, Honorable Lote, for distancing himself from the otherwise very responsible statements made by this very arrogant member of parliament by the name Kamket, and who pretends to be the biggest defender of this government. And he thinks that people have forgotten that he never even supported the election of William Ruto in the first place. And this is somebody now coming and pretending to be supporting government even better than those that helped form this government. But I understand him. He's desperate in trying to catch the attention of President Ruto, whom I know, and I can tell you, gives him a wide berth because he knows he's a man, that Kamket is a man who has no principles. And so I thank Lote for distancing himself from such a person, and for showing that he actually went to school, and for distancing the Pokot community from these very useless remarks by Honorable Kamket. In fact, I doubt whether I should call him Honorable. I should just call him Kamket. And Fred, looking at, I'm a very disappointed person because, like you say, the youth of this country have given notice. They just want to do a demonstration in remembrance of their colleagues who lost their lives last year and who continue losing their lives, especially in the hands of the police. And we know, because we were here in June last year, we know that our young people demonstrate when they do it constitutionally, peaceably and unarmed. The only thing they carried to the streets of Nairobi last year and even last week was a phone and a bottle of water. Looking, and why I say I'm very disappointed is looking at or listening to the president yesterday addressing the police. You know, Fred, I'm wondering whether our president is still in his right state of mind and whether he's, because, you know, I would have expected him to tell the police that our young people have a right to demonstrate. Please make sure that you protect them against criminals who would want to infiltrate their peaceful demonstration. But here is the president talking about the rights of the police and that nobody is supposed to dare the police, and not at all talking about the right of Kenyans and especially the young people to demonstrate peaceably. Then you have Murkomen, he sees for Interior, saying that the police should deal ruthlessly with the protesters. Of course, he hid behind the goons. But we know who sponsors goons. We know who sponsored goons last week. They were, images were there. They were working with the police. Murkomen controls the police. He is the Minister for Interior. The goons were roaming the streets of Nairobi while the police were in tow. Mm-hmm. So when he comes and tells the police to deal with the demonstrators ruthlessly, because he was talking about goons, but he is the owner of the goons. Murkomen is the owner of the goons. Otherwise, the police would not have protected the goons last week. Murkomen, Sakaja, and this is public knowledge. And so, in short, I would have expected the president to also talk about the rights of Kenyans and their right, because it's a constitutional right, to demonstrate peaceably and unarmed. That is what the Constitution provides. But for the president to talk about the police, nobody should dare the police have the rights, we are going to stand with you and your families and the police, and not talking about...
Do you think he was under some pressure to address the police yesterday and not the other things that you mentioned? Could there be an issue that the president was trying to counter?
Now, remember, Fred, we lost Ojwang in the hands of the police about 2 or so weeks ago. We witnessed the shooting of a mask vendor, Boniface Mwangi, whom I went to see yesterday. The president has not talked about the irresponsible, act by the police officers. But he's talking about the protection that people should give to the police, not to demonstrators, our young people. And a friend, this got me thinking last night when I saw him. I'm told that the president studied, is it botany and zoology in undergrad? Because I do not want to talk about his, postgraduate studies, because I don't believe he actually went to class. I believe it's just something concocted. So I'm thinking, looking at how he's behaving towards the loss of life, I'm wondering, is it because of his background as somebody who studied zoology, so that now he views human beings just physically, the way you would view an animal? If you want some meat, you can slaughter a chicken without getting permission from anybody. I don't know whether that is what zoology teaches. Just the physical person, the animal, you can slaughter a cow at will. And I'm wondering, is President Ruto looking at Kenyans and human life as just a physical, existence, without any, without any spiritual or any rights attached to this particular being? Because he has been very irresponsible.
Yes, so there are serious concerns about the conduct of the police.
Yes.
And from the president's perspective, I'm sure he has enough information about what could be happening within the police service.
Of course.
For him to choose to address the police service, ideally it's because of something probably he was trying to address. We've seen quite a number of junior police officers arraigned for wrongdoing. for issues around police brutality. Some of the big names were expected among the ranks of the police to be in the list of those people to be charged for the death of Albert Ojwang were curiously missing.
Yes.
Do you think that probably the president was trying to appease the junior ranks of police officers by talking to them directly?
Yes and no. Yes, because of course they are doing the dirty jobs for him, and I can tell you all the dirty jobs the police are doing, they are doing them for William Ruto. Because William Ruto feels very insecure, very threatened, and especially what prompted him to do the meeting yesterday, in my thinking, is the very, very real reality that Gen Zs could storm State House and probably flush him out of State House, which of course would be something akin the Arab Spring. And so in his desperation and in his quest to see that the police continue serving his very immoral and inhuman, acts that he wants to perpetrate, just to see to it that he retains his office, that he remains in power. I think it's I would call it an act of self-preservation. Okay. He feels threatened. But I think I would want to assure him that if I'm listening to the youth well, the youth, have no intention to remove him from power unconstitutionally. They just want to express displeasure with the way he's running the country, with the way he's misusing the police, especially in killing, unarmed youths who pose no threat. So it is it's a case of a desperate despot who thinks that the youth can remove him from office before 2027, and he thinks the only way he can do that is by using force. And who else can he use when he wants to use brute force? It's the police. And so he was actually giving the police yesterday a go-ahead to go and kill young people today.
We've seen, Bwana Lote, the kind of criticism that has been directed towards the police service over the past few weeks. And in last year's events surrounding this same issue that we are commemorating 1 year later, the police were accused of being too brutal on people. The president has not commented on the police for quite a long time. Why do you think he found it necessary just to address the police instead of the big issues that we're talking about? The dailies today have dedicated acres and acres of discussions around echoes of June 25th, Gen Z revolt, the matter that parliament precincts were breached. But the president, a day before this commemoration, chose to ignore all that and simply talk about the police. Why do you think that?
Well, thank you. I think first and dimly, it is important for us to know that the president is not barred from speaking to the police. The president is the president of this republic and he's got the right to speak to the police. That we should not think is not right. The point and the time why he speaks to the police is also important, probably because of the goons and the planned demonstrations. That is not peaceful at all. That is not as per the article number 37 of our constitution, ENOS, because we've actually been in this country. First of all, I wish to say it is important that we actually go back to history, because from history then we can actually be able to deduce the future. All the demonstrations that have actually taken place in this country, be it at the time of President Ruto or the previous presidents, we've actually seen that these demonstrations have never been peaceful. So it will be very wrong for us to falsify the president to think that he's the first person that has actually been able to make demonstrations become unpeaceful. The demonstrations have never been peaceful. I can take you back to history, to 1980s. And you can actually see that every demonstrations have got an issue. So probably the president, unlike the previous ones, have now decided to talk to the police, because all those things you're seeing, people accusing the police. They're accusing the police of doing the wrong things during demonstrations, because Article number 37 is all that we need to discuss now. It says that you have the right to picket, to demonstrate, as long as, and that is important, you're not armed and you're not causing injuries to others. So there is limitation to how we can be able to demonstrate. But what have we been saying? We've actually seen a lot of looting. In fact, I wish that we also remember not only the lives of the people that we've lost, but the properties of the people that we've lost. Because, let me tell you, as much as we say we are democratic, it is important for us to also look at the other countries that think are democratic. If you were able to listen to what happened in the US, in the state of Florida, where the ICE, the people who are supposed to expulse people in the US who do not have papers, when they started doing that during Trump's administration, a lot of people went to the streets to demonstrate and say what the police in the US is doing is not right, because they're expelling us out of the US. And yet this is a decree from the government. And yet these people do not have papers. So the government had the right to expel these people out of this country. People demonstrated. If you hear what this police person said, then you will know what the president was saying yesterday was as democratic as it is. This is what he said. He said, if you touch, you have the right to demonstrate. But if you touch the police, the ICE police person, you'll find yourself in jail, but you have to go through an hospital because you will be beaten. You say if you block a vehicle on an intersection, you will go to jail, but you have to go through the hospital because you'll be beaten. He said if you destroy people's property, the only thing we can do is we'll tell your relatives where to find your body because we'll shoot you dead. This is America, a country that we say is democratic, because the police have also got the right to protect the property of people, to protect the image of that country. So what the president was doing yesterday probably was, first of all, to sanitize and tell the police, as long as people are, and I actually heard this from him, he said, allow people to demonstrate, but we cannot allow destruction of property because that is unconstitutional. We cannot have a constitutional matter become unconstitutional because some guy is planning for demonstrations today, some guy is planning for thinking that there's going to be an Arab moment in this country, think that today people can walk to State House. In fact, I'm even wondering, because I'm hearing statements, what we hear today was the youth are supposed to go to remember, which is very right actually. Even me, I feel for the people that have lost their lives. And it is time that we also remember them because they fought for this country. But when we turn that to say we're going to take lunch in State House, it is not what we're hearing. It is not the remembering of the youth, but another upheaval planned from somewhere to start to destabilize the government.
Right. And we'll be back to continue talking about the police and why the focus is on police action today. You're watching Morning Cafe. This is Gen Z Revolt 1 year later. We'll be right back.
Our world is changing every day, and so should we, for the better. Each week, we tackle the big why, the question that should be on everyone's minds. Why isn't this fixed yet? Deforestation, global warming, and the adverse effects of climate change. The future isn't just something that we inherit, it's something that we create. Join us on The Green Fix as we tell the stories of those who refuse to give up. When it comes to fixing the planet, there is no time to waste. Join me, Shiksha Arora, on Thursdays at 9 p.m. on The Green Fix as we look into the big why, you and I.
For comprehensive information and education on your health, Body Garage is here.
Don't allow anyone to pluck out your good tooth.
Welcome back. Live images now of Kiambu Road, deserted. Usually this time of day, about 5 minutes past 7, this road, this is very close to the DCI headquarters, is usually busy. Especially those heading to town know that this area is usually busy with all the lanes, both heading in different directions, usually filled with vehicles heading towards town, but it looks like a public holiday. You can actually count the vehicles on the roads this morning. These are the images across town. Quite a number of roads do have police roadblocks erected at various points to control traffic, but definitely this is not your typical Wednesday. That's the DCI headquarters. Across the road we have the Kenya Forestry Service, and this is definitely, someone is even attempting to do a U-turn on the highway. This is definitely not your typical traffic on Kiambu Road at 6 minutes past 7 on a Wednesday morning. This is the same happening across major tributaries into the CBD. And all this is in anticipation of the events of today as Kenyans go out to mark 1 year since the Gen Z revolt. I've not seen even one public service vehicle. Most Ubers are staying away. And I'm trying to see if at all there's a police roadblock closer to this place. We could just see one. Yes, we're getting closer to the Muthaiga interchange and the Pangani interchange. And yes, you can see some activity there. Yes, that looks like a police roadblock. Yeah, immediately under that bridge, yes, quite a number of police officers. If you count the police officers, there are more than the number of vehicles on the road this morning, controlling movement into the CBD, all in anticipation of the protests this morning. Now, this is Kiambu Road, and we'll be showing you other roads across the city. But how people will get into town, probably this will discourage even those who intended to go open their businesses. This is just at the tip of the entry into the Pangani interchange coming from Kiambu Road. Yes, I can see at least one matatu heading towards Kiambu, probably taking people back home who've realized there's nothing much they can do in town. Gen Z revolt 1 year later, that's the focus of this discussion. And getting into that tunnel that takes you to the Pangani interchange, heading towards either Muranga Road or Forest Road. Let's see if at all we're going to see more traffic on Thika Road. Usually it's much busier than Kiambu Road, but this morning it would appear that this will be the images we'll be seeing across town. Deserted roads, closed businesses, no business in schools. At least schools are out for the midterm. And yes, Thika Road is also just as empty as Kiambu Road at exactly 8 minutes past 7. Usually there's no movement here because of the number of vehicles trying to get into the CBD. Looks like a public holiday, definitely, Bwana Lote. Senator Nyoto, I know you come from this direction. This is a public holiday by all standards. Senator, your feelings about this? Should the government just have declared a public holiday in commemoration of the events of June 25th? Probably it would have been much easier to handle the situation.
No, Fred. But before I comment about that, allow me to say something about my friend Lote's comments. You know, he said that the president has a right to talk to the police. And I want to agree with him totally that the president has a right to talk to the police. I think each one of us also has a right to talk to the police. Only I don't know whether they would be ready to listen to some of us. But the question is, I mean, we are commemorating over, I mean, the Gen Zs want to commemorate the loss of about 60 lives. I think it would have been better for the president to meet at least young people before meeting the police. Because he has a right to talk to the police, but is today's, commemoration about the police? It's about the young people who lost their lives last year, and young people who continue losing their lives even now. For him to have just met the police because he has the right to talk to the police and not having met young people, not have commented about the rights of young people and what the police are supposed to do to protect them, as they go about their business of, doing peaceful demonstrations, he chose to talk to the police. And so, yes, he has a right, but then I think he has lopsided priorities, because the priority should have been young people. I have also heard Lotte say that towards the end of his remarks, that these protests are being planned from somewhere. I want to ask you, Honorable Lotte, because you are a very sober leader and I have a lot of respect for you. Of course, you should know that if anybody is planning these protests from somewhere, we have NIS. NIS should have known who is this planning. Because, we had these claims last year, everybody, including the president, insinuating that it is Rigathi Gachagua who planned these demos in Mombasa, Kisumu, Nairobi, Nyeri, everywhere in this country. And I think it was laughable for people who at least, can add 1 to 1 and know that you get 2. So I think, Honorable Lotte, before you make that claim, because it's a very embarrassing claim that government, with all its machinery, claims that these protests are being planned from somewhere. Let them arrest the planners if they have any evidence of anybody planning this. Because you cannot have young people whom we know mobilized through social media and everybody knows are planning to do a peaceful demonstration. Then there are some irresponsible people saying that this is being planned from somewhere. Go arrest the planners, take them to court, adduce the evidence that you have that they have planned this. When again Lotte talks about that, of course, the goons should be dealt with. We want to ask Murkomen to tell us what he has done about the goons that demonstrated, that attacked people in Nairobi in full protection by the police, what he has done about those goons before he starts talking about the goons today. Right. And so it's very unfair. In fact, so you're asking whether the government should have declared today a public holiday. Of course it can't, because it would be an embarrassment. They would own up that they have killed over 60 young people for nothing else, for no reason at all, other than, demanding for their rights, peacefully. So they can't. Government could not have declared this a public holiday. Mm-hmm. But it is good that Ruto can see the power of the people. That even without his government declaring today a public holiday, it is actually more than a public holiday. Right. And the article 1 that talks about the power of the people, that all power belongs to the people, is there for everybody to see. And I think the sooner President Ruto, gets to understand and accept that power belongs to the people, the better for him. And that using the police to silence those that are demanding their rights will not work. And Fred, let me tell you, President Ruto thinks that, and his government thinks that they can use the police to rule people by force. I can tell you, because we have been here, we have even seen people like Muammar Gaddafi, that, these police officers, remember they also have pay slips, for example, and these pay slips have been mutilated. Anybody with a pay slip in Kenya knows that every pay slip has been mutilated, including that of those of the police. And then the police are human beings. They are smart. They can see that when they are given these commands and they execute them, that finally the big man who gives them the command, is secured somewhere as they are made to face the law. And the case in point is, we have been told of what Lagat, the DIG, that he is the one who issued instructions to Talam, the OCS in Nairobi Central Police Station. There was a Mukhwana. These are the people facing the law. So the police might as well one day decide, no, we are not going to do dirty jobs for anybody. Because if you tell me to do a dirty job, then you make me face the law while you are secured. Remember DIG Lagat has not resigned. He has just stepped aside. Because we know And Lotte may not want to accept this. We knew that Lagarde is President Ruto's blue-eyed boy. He's the one he wants to inherit, to take over from Kanja, and of course then perpetuate all these illegalities. So,
okay. Yeah, and we continue beaming images live from the CBD. Very little activity happening there. This is areas around Moi Avenue, and you can see very little activity. Typical, not typical of any Wednesday morning. My colleague Mary Washuka is on standby for an update from town. Mary, good morning. What else can you tell us from the CBD? We can see very little activity happening there.
Thank you, Fred. Not much is really happening. As you can see, most of the businesses around are on close, no traffic. Remember, at this time, we expect a lot of traffic to be on air, to be happening, but there's nothing much that is happening. And also, as you have seen, there's quite heavy police in terms of those, what we call police lockdown. It's like they are trying to block people from coming in and just seeing who are the people that are getting into the Nairobi CBD. So that is how it is. Not much. This, you can imagine, at this area we normally have a lot of traffic, but nothing is happening, and most of the businesses are on shut.
You can see that's the Haile Selassie roundabout. The roundabout at the railway bus station, which is usually very busy with all the matatus bringing people to town. How are people getting into town from what you can see? Because I can see quite a number of people have made their way into town. How are they making it into town?
Some are walking, but there are few matatus, not much matatus. So they are making their way through by way of walking. But you can still tell there is no much traffic. There is no much traffic at all.
And our camera is just entering Harambee Avenue right now. That's the main government street, which heads towards Parliament Road, which will be probably the main area of action today as younger Kenyans protest, or rather commemorate the more than 60 people who perished, who lost their lives during the events of last year. But we continue here in studio with Senator Joe Nyoto of Murang'a and Titus Lote and Mpika Chiliba, trying to discuss why the focus is on the police today and not on the commemoration or the events of last year. Because there's a lot to be talked about last year. Over 60 people died. Parliament precincts were breached for the very first time in Kenya's history. Things that should not happen again, ever. But the focus is on the police and what the police should do. As Senator Nyoto suggested, there could be an issue with the police, that probably there's a bit too much pressure on the junior ranks of the police service. Some of them we can see there on the screens, ready to counter the protest today. Do you think that there could be a problem within the junior ranks of the police service, that there's too much pressure, they're taking too much flack, not just from the public, but also from their seniors and even the government itself, and that there could be a risk? Because we saw last week some of them surrendering their authority to goons in Nairobi. Could there be a risk with this?
Well, first of all, before I answer this, Fred, let me first of all go back to what my good friend Senator said about my assertion that these demonstrations are being planned from somewhere. And he says, if we got people that we know have planned this thing, we need to tell them to the police, and the NIS are there to tell us who these are. As we speak now, Fred, there are 2 people that are out on police bond. 2 people. Last year's demonstration, the NIS picked them out. We've got a member of parliament called Major Dong. We've got another one called Gakuya. Those people are out on a government document that allows them to be out. Not that they are free, but they are still under investigations. That basically tells you that if names can, because he says that I need to name here. And again, if you look at the people, these people are aligned to one particular person. One particular person that was also, and the reason why we are saying or they could be a big, and I like what my friend said, that they could be some pressure from the top to the junior police officer. Could be. That term could be is linking the police to somebody else. And so if we can mention names here of members of parliament that are picked out by NIS, flashed out and taken to court, and that they, based on our constitution, get a document to be out of jail, those people are linked to an individual. And so I could also say the same thing like he says. Those people could be linked to somebody, and that these demonstrations are planned. In any case, Fred, today we might not be talking about commemoration of the people who died. We could be talking about another demonstration. In fact, yesterday, if you look at the papers yesterday, it was shocking for one person to say that he's going to ban Kenya. Very shocking, very shocking. In fact, that is basically what tells us that this thing is planned. If somebody can wake up yesterday and today we've got demonstrations. True, Fred, the desertion in the streets here is a good testimony to you and to the world that Kenyans are very aware that these are not demonstrations, these are not commemorations.
For example, you can see the entire Parliament Road has been sealed off using some special fence.
The entire place has been sealed off, it's true. But let me tell you.
That means even you will not be able to access it.
The fact that the streets are empty today tells you that Kenyans, not me and not even you, every Kenyan knows that what is going to happen here is not peaceful demonstration, but battles on the streets. People have closed shops. But let me tell you, Fred, the sad thing is the people that are planning for this demonstration are taking some very sumptuous breakfast somewhere, watching the screens.
Are you saying there are no genuine protesters who are just simply trying to commemorate?
They could be genuine protesters. I'm not rejecting. In fact, I could be a genuine protester myself because the constitutions allow me to go and protest. But if I go in there and then they are genuine protesters, those that have obtuse thinking about what is happening in this country, then will come and destroy people's property. In fact, Fred, as we always commemorate this kind of deaths, Fred, I'll tell you, we also need to commemorate the loss of property, the loss of dignity to our city.
Okay.
Again, for me to come to the question as to whether this should be declared a public holiday. Fred, how many public holidays will we have? Because since this independence, we've had events in this country that will call for public holiday. If we start to say every event become a public holiday, I'll want a public holiday for the Morocco massacre. In 1984, Pokots were massacred in thousands, not in hundreds, in thousands. We've got what we call the Gawagala massacre, where people were massacred in thousands. Can we also make those as public holidays?
Don't you think that is part of the problem, that we have a trend in Kenya where so many things that are life-changing happen, but they go unattended, that they're simply swept under the rug and we forget about them? What you just mentioned,
yes.
Was there a pro bono inquiry after that? The Gen Z protest last year, was there a pro bono inquiry after that?
And the reason why I'm saying, we are trying to say it is Ruto's mistakes. But I'll tell you, the massacres that we saw in the Morocco, in West Pokot in 1984, those are serious massacres.
I don't think anyone is blaming the president here.
No, he has said that probably the way Ruto is doing it is what causes
I'm asking you now a different question. I'm asking you a different question.
Yes.
Do you think there's a trend in Kenya? Yes. And not just under this administration. Historically, that we have swept under the rug so many things such that we find it normal that even when 60 people die in a single day, it's nothing big. We can go and move on with our lives without even having a probe into it.
No, nobody has said that.
But has it become a trend?
It is not something that is new in this country, but it's become a trend. That, as Kenyans, things happen and we move on. And this is not only in Kenya.
A colleague in parliament said the same thing. The people die and we move on.
There are events globally over that happens and people move on. I have never seen us having a day to commemorate, for example, the first atomic bomb being dropped in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. It happened, it was an event that was so spectacular, a different event of its own kind. Nobody has said, now we are putting a day for that. If we have to put a day for this, as we lost, these are 60 people. I'm not saying these lives are not important, But there are times where we lost 816 people in a day in West Pokot by a massacre, by government.
Was there a probe after? Was there an inquiry?
There was an inquiry. Of course, the inquiries will always be, there's no stone that is being left unturned, and finally find that no stone has actually been turned. The same thing will have happened in many of the governments that have actually come before Ruto. So it will be wrong for us to start saying these things have happened because
and once again, I'll insist, we are not blaming the president.
We've seen the deaths where people are thrown in River Yala. We've seen deaths across this country. We've seen the massacre in Mount Elgon. These things have continued in government. So what we only need to do is do not try to point a finger and falsify the government now. Let us as Kenyans sit down and say, for how long will we continue with this?
And I can see that even you will not be able to access your offices today because this is the other entry into Parliament Road, totally sealed by police using special wire. And this is a route from directly from Uhuru Highway. We've seen that intersection, the roundabout at Holy Family Basilica has totally been sealed. You cannot access Parliament Road through that end. Probably we try and see if at all from the Haile Selassie Avenue, if at all there could be entry, because I'm sure Harambee Avenue has also been sealed. Senator, same question. Without looking at it with the current political, through the current political prism, we've had these issues, even the Sabasaba demonstrations in the wake of the multi-party democracy agitation, that some of these things happen in Kenya. People are killed by security agencies, and we do not have probably sufficient inquiry or investigation into it, and we simply move on. Do you agree that that could be the problem even with this?
Yes, totally yes. And under no regime should the police be allowed to kill with abandon, especially when it's about demonstrators. And I don't know why it is so hard for us to just understand the basics in law, that if the police find anybody breaking the law, destroying property, the police are trained to be able to arrest such a person. If such a person is so, it's not very easy to arrest such a person, then the police are trained also on how to immobilize such a person. Because the thing is, there should be no justice executed by the police, directly. I mean, it should only be through a court of law. So it doesn't matter that somebody is maybe destroying property. I don't think there is anywhere, there is any place for the police to shoot dead any person, whether they are destroying property or whatever they are doing. The police are trained. They should be able to arrest whoever that it is, and take them to court so that the justice now then may be served through our justice, system, which is the courts. And so under no regime, and we are not just talking about the police because they are under Ruto. All we are saying is that Ruto is managing this particular service and using it for his political ends. That is the problem we have. And then we are not talking about the demos that happened those many years back. We are talking about the current situation. Remember, this debate has been provoked by what is happening today. So if then we depart from discussing what is happening today and take it to the other demos that have happened and killings that have happened, then maybe we'll have lost the focus. Because the focus today, and that is why it is a topic on the table, is because today there are planned protests by Gen Zs. But before I exit, Fred, my colleague, Honorable Lote, has mentioned Major Donk and Honorable Gakuya as people who have been arraigned in court for having planned demos, Gen Z demonstrations last year. And well, it is true, they have been taken to court. The police are yet to produce any evidence linking the two members to any planning. And then we do not even need to be too smart or too bright to know that these are just charges that have been concocted somewhere to show that it was planned by Rigathi Gachagua. If you listen to Honorable Lote saying that these two are linked to somebody, the somebody he's referring to is His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua, and I'm also linked to him, and that's not a secret. But Lote, surely, are you telling me that Major Donk and Gakuya planned the demos in Kisumu, in Nairobi, in Mombasa, in Nakuru, even in Mandera? in the whole country, and the NIS did not know that they were planning this, and they should have been able to avert this. So I think it's just a convenient, argument by Honorable Lote, but deep down himself, he knows that Major Donk and Kakuya did not plan this. In fact, they had no capacity to plan this, even if they had wanted to plan it. And he has said, if you allow me, I don't know whether you want to go.
I want to go on a break, but a quick update.
Allow me then to finish.
When I come back, I'll give you an opportunity. You can see live pictures there. And that section of Kenyatta Avenue into town coming from Uhuru Highway has totally been blocked by police. That means anyone trying to enter into the CBD, especially motorists, are not allowed to. At least pedestrians, we can see quite a number on foot, could access the CBD, and even matatus are not allowed to use that route, at least not from the side of Kenyatta Avenue. It's much easier from the eastern side of town to get into town, but into the CBD, city center. But even our vehicle, the one that's still roaming through the streets of Nairobi city, has not been allowed to enter. Let's take a short break. We'll be back to continue with this conversation. You're watching Morning Cafe, Gen Z Revolt, 1 year later.
Our world is changing every day, and so should we, for the better. Each week, we tackle the big why, the question that should be on everyone's minds. Why isn't this fixed yet? Deforestation, global warming, and the adverse effects of climate change. The future isn't just something that we inherit, it's something that we create. Join us on The Green Fix as we tell the stories of those who refuse to give up. When it comes to fixing the planet, there is no time to waste. Join me, Shiksha Arora, on Thursdays at 9 p.m. on The Green Fix as we look into the big why, you and I.
For comprehensive information and education on your health, Body Garage is here.
Don't allow anyone to pluck out your good tooth, as long as it is strong and stable.
Cancer doesn't start today and you get the symptoms tomorrow. By the time you pick it or the time it is manifesting in you, probably will be there about 5 to 10 years.
The eye is the window to the rest of the body.
Don't forget to stay hydrated.
And of course, you at home do take your water.
So the ultimate test is actually you check your urine. Your urine should be clear.
Clear like the water?
Yes. Should be able to see the other side of the urine. If your urine is colored or has changed color, you cannot see the other side, then you have not taken enough water.
Don't forget regular health checkups. Early detection saves lives.
I want the message be, we can prevent cervical cancer. We prevent cervical cancer in several ways. You have young girls and even somebody who's above that age, you can pay at least every 3 years. Somebody should have a pap smear done.
If you are 40, 45, 50, going upwards, once a year, please go see a doctor. Yeah, it's just for normal routine maintenance.
Hey there, friends. Welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in? I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, Grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Yes, quite some activity inside the CBD. In Nairobi, we had earlier reported very little activity on the major tributaries into town, but you can see from the live pictures we have, some of the streets are getting busy as we speak. A number of matatus have been allowed to enter this city center, especially coming from the eastern side of the city, roads along Jogoo Road, I think Juja Road, and probably, yes, Murang'a Road too. Thika Road and into town, it's okay, but areas around Parliament Road have been cut off to traffic by use of razor wire. I've never seen that before, and I was questioning whether or not the parliamentarians in studio would make it to work today or be allowed into the Parliament buildings, but I'm made to understand that the senators are on recess. Bwana Lote, we're hoping that you will make it to work. But the question is, even as you do, this should also be a special day for Parliament and the National Assembly. 1 year since the perimeter, the precincts of Parliament were breached, it has never happened before. 1 year later, we've not had a serious, conclusive discussion, even within Parliament, about the fact that its perimeter wall was breached by protesters or demonstrators. Why do you think this is? Why has Parliament reluctantly, and I've asked the Senator this question before, why has Parliament reluctantly refused to discuss conclusively this detail?
Well, like I said initially, even mentioning the names of those members, the investigations are going on. And it's important for you to be convicted. Investigations must be concluded. Two, I don't know why we could say that today is supposed to be a special day for Parliament. Because, Fred, what is it that delineates that it should be after 1 year? Why not after a month? Why not after 10 years? So I think there's no something that has been cut to say that after 1 year is when you commemorate anything that is special. There is no law like that anywhere. So probably Parliament is planning to commemorate after 10 years. Probably Parliament has commemorated the last 1 month. So that should not be that because Gen Zs are being commemorated today, commemorated in quotes today, I do not think that Parliament is to do that. Parliament does not operate on a calendar of the public. Two, Fred, I think if we look at our Constitution and the Penal Code number 40, subsection 2, that talks about treason. Treason is probably what we might be seeing in this country. Because why I'm saying that today is not a commemoration or commemoration in quotes is because the plans that are underway is not the plans to just commemorate the deaths of the youth that died last year. But you will hear people saying that we are going to take lunch in State House, we're going to go back to Parliament. In fact, yesterday one person called me and said, have you put enough salt into the food? Because last year we ate food that did not have enough salt.
In Parliament?
I'll tell you, yes. If that is a joke, fine, but it also tells you the deeper thinking of the public.
But don't you think that even Parliament itself, you've ignored this issue? It's 1 year on.
Yes.
That you've not found it necessary to probe the matter, that what happened, to come up with recommendations of ensuring that this does not happen again. This is 1 year later.
Well, I think Parliament has fortified the security around Parliament. In any case, it is not the role of Parliament to probe what happened last year. It is the role of the NIS, it's the role of the security agencies to probe what happened last year. So that is exactly what is happening, including the two that I've mentioned before. So for me, I'll say, let me take you to this penal code thing. And just for Kenyans to understand that what they are doing, if it is commemoration of the youth last year, I'll be part of it. If it's going to be peaceful, I'll be part of it. The fence that you're seeing out there is actually based on the Constitution. If you look at Article number 37 of the Constitution that gives us the right to picket, to demonstrate, it says within specified areas. And so you have to notify the police, and then you have to operate within the specified areas. So it basically means that those areas that have been cordoned off today are areas that are not.
And you've quoted Article 37. I have it open here. It is a very short sentence. Every person has a right peaceably and unarmed to assemble, to demonstrate, to picket, and to present petitions to public authorities. It has not mentioned any location or any area where you should do this.
I think it is important. The STAR, it belongs to this institution. Go back there and look at the explainer from the STAR that try to explain bit by bit what that basically means. It basically means that you need to go to first of all ask for permission. And I like what the youths have said. They have given notice that they want to picket. It is important. That is part of that part of the article. You have to notify. And 2, you have to be given permission. And 3, you have to
be given permission?
Yes, you have to be given. You have to seek by the authorities. That is the reason.
The only requirement is to notify the police, not ask for permission.
You notify the police so that they give you. You've actually seen. Let me tell you.
So that they provide security.
You've seen this.
Not permission.
Let me take you back to Uhuru's time. When Matiang'i was the cabinet secretary, there are people who wanted to picket, and this constitution was in place then. And they even asked that they wanted to use Nyayo Stadium, and Nyayo Stadium was denied. They had given their notice, they requested even for the venue, and they were denied, and they were told no.
Should that be the standard of which we measure
but that is what
compliance to the Constitution?
That is what the Constitution says. The Constitution provides that you do that. And the Constitution goes back to say, this demonstration needs to be peaceful as long as you're not armed and you are not overtly and reasonably disastrous to people's property. But what do you see in all these demonstrations that have taken place? People are armed, people go with machetes and rungus, people are hurt on the road, business people are hit. That's the reason why Kenyans don't want to come to the streets today. They don't want to come to the streets because the people who are actually coming to commemorate in quotes are actually coming to hurt people. They're injurious to the public.
Senator, and we've talked about this before, I'm sure. Allow me to take you back there. What do you think would take us to closure on this matter of the Gen Z revolt? If I may give an example, after the 2007-2008, there was a commission of inquiry, the Kriegler Commission, that got to the end, gave us a report and recommendations going forward. What do you think will take us so that we avoid this anxiety, the one we're feeling today, not knowing what will happen?
Today's protests are about the lives that were lost. Last year, the protest was about the finance bill. Today, it's not about the finance bill, it's about the lives lost. And now you are asking for closure. Just a minute, Lotte. You are asking for what in my thinking would be the closure. The closure would be to address this particular issue of these deaths. Has the government even ever cared to at least maybe call the families who have lost their loved ones? Have some discussion with them, try to understand how they feel, if possible to even apologize to them, if any compensation can be given to them so that at least they feel that the government, that these deaths happened not with the direct order by the government, but maybe by mistake or by overreaching.
There was that suggestion yesterday in State House by the CS for Interior, Murkomen.
Yes.
You may have heard him say that they would be willing to have this discussion.
Yes.
Do you think that the government is aware enough that that is a route to take?
The thing is, you also have to be careful. You also have to ask yourself what the motive is. I mean, why did Murkomen come up with this particular suggestion only yesterday while the protests were to happen today? Because this is something then that we should have done. But I want to say that that would be a step in the right direction at least in trying to appease the families that, who lost their loved ones. At least let the youth see, let every Kenyan see that this government cares about its citizenry, that when one life is lost, it's one life too many. I mean, something like that should be able to be done by government. There should be a deliberate effort by government. There should be deliberate action by government to show that indeed the government also feels the loss of these young people and other Kenyans, especially who have died under or in the hands of the police. And we would also have, I mean, to bring closure, we would also want to see the president and the CS for Interior, whoever it is. It's Murkomen now, it was, Kidura Kindiki yesterday. I mean, let us see them talking to the police and engaging the police, and let us see them telling the police that they must act responsibly, especially when they're dealing with unarmed Kenyans. Let everybody see that government is making an effort to tell the police and to ask the police that whatever happens, you must protect life and property, and the lives of demonstrators matter. I mean, then Kenyans will see that this government or any other government does not support the killings by the police. But what do we see? The president telling the police nobody should provoke you, nobody is above the law, and not telling the police about any responsibility that they have. It's only the rights that they have, and the right that they have, looking at what has been happening recently, is the right to kill, and that is what the president seems to be defending. The rights of the police to kill, the rights of the police to maim, but not the responsibility of the police to protect life and property, and especially life. Okay. But you had promised that you were going to give me an opportunity to say one or two things about what Lotte had said. Lotte is submitting here that Kenyans today, that the roads we are seeing are empty today because Kenyans know that these demos are not going to be peaceful. But we must go further and ask ourselves, why will the demos not be peaceful? It is because the police and the goons are going to interfere with peaceful demonstrators. And last year, and I believe that is how our youth want to do it today, they were armed with just a phone and a bottle of water. Now we hear that the goons that have been mobilized by Sakaja and company, and that Kamket guy and others, that they want to actually, they have instructed the goons to go and snatch the phones in the hands of our youth, so that the youth do not capture the brutality of the police as it is meted on innocent Kenyans. So Kenyans are not at home because they know that the demonstrators will cause havoc. They are at home because they know the police will attack even innocent people, including any bystanders on the streets of Nairobi. And that's why they are staying at home, not because the demonstrators will be violent. These deaths that they keep talking about, the deaths in Ayala, we must tell Kenyans the truth, Fred. Most of the bodies that were found in River Ayala were bodies of people who were witnesses at ICC. You remember those cases? ICC. So when I hear those serving this precedent, talk about, killings are not a new thing. I saw Kimani Ichung'wa, you remember when he was down dressing Natembea during the burial of the mother to Speaker Wetangula. That why did Natembea talk about the deaths of those whose bodies was found in River Ayala? They forget that most of these bodies were bodies of people who were supposed to be ICC witnesses, where President Ruto was one of the accused persons. And I can tell you, these were people who were witnesses against President Ruto in ICC.
President Uhuru Kenyatta was also a suspect.
Yes, but most of the people that were killed, because they are known, and the testimonies they had given, they were not about President Kenyatta. They were about, they were witnesses against President William Ruto. And so let those who support William Ruto not, say there were deaths of people who were thrown into River Yala and exonerate him from those killings. These were witnesses about his case. I've not finished, but I can see yes. You want to go back.
There's an update there, I think part of that road where the ESCC headquarters is domiciled has also been blocked. That means coming into town through that section of Kenyatta Avenue has also been blocked, meaning that traffic is being referred elsewhere. But Bwana, the question is about who takes responsibility going forward. We've seen a number of junior officers being arraigned because of their actions or inactions in the recent days. Yet from last year's protests, there was a lot of killings, not very many people got to court. Going forward, do you think it is only right that if any officer is found culpable of extrajudicial killings, even on a day like this, that they should be arraigned and take personal responsibility?
Well, good. I will answer that question, but I want to read something in the newspaper today, just in respect to and in response to what you said about the emptiness of our city today. It says, in the CBD, traders and business owners express concern not only for their safety, but also for the security of their businesses and goods in view of the planned demonstrations to commemorate the victims of last year's death. Basically, that is not me saying. It's the public saying they are getting out of the CBD, not because of anything, but because the demonstrators are going to loot, kill, and maim them. A phone and water bottle, like he says, cannot break a shop. But we've seen all the demonstration. The shops have been broken, people have lost property, in fact, in millions. Even last week, people lost property. Last year in Mombasa, we saw some guys trying to protect his property using a gun, and he was arraigned. I think, to come back to your question, which is important, you take personal responsibility. The buck stops at you when you break the law, whether you're a policeman or not a policeman. If you're asked to go and protect the demonstrators, protect them, don't kill them. So if you're given a gun by your senior and you use that gun to kill, you take responsibility. In fact, we've seen last week demonstrators, after the demonstration, after the killing of a Juang, people have been arraigned in court. They are not junior officers. An OCS in Nairobi is not a junior officer. These are senior officers as well. The only thing why people are crying, they're saying, let IG Langat be arraigned. That is not as per the law. The law needs investigations. So the junior officers that actually were found culpable of killing are supposed to link Langat, which they have failed because probably people are only paying for blood of Langat for nothing. Langat, the IG, the DIG, went and did a complaint against this young man, which is according to the law. So if we operate within the law, it does not make us criminals. Whether you are a police person, you're a senior person, or you are just a common citizen. So the thing is, if you're a police person going to the streets today, please, even the Bible, in the book of Exodus 20, when God was giving out the 10 commandments, one of them was do not kill. I asked the police people, do not kill any young person just because you've been given a gun. Protect. But I also asked the young people. In fact, if you look at the police here, the police are so humble. I've actually seen a lady spitting at the police. I've seen a lady defacing a police and expect the police not to act. So sometimes we do not also need to go and provoke too much because the law says that the police are not supposed to act. And the reason why I took you back to the US, the country that we call so democratic, they say if you touch an ICE person, that is the police that are responsible for deportation, you're going to jail. In Kenya, the young people go and tame the police. They even want to remove their clothes. They want to remove their masks. They want to touch their guns.
Their masks on the mask thing, the court pronounced itself on the matter.
I tell you, if you do that to others, tell these young people to go and do that in the most democratic country called the US, they would go to jail. So sometimes the youth, as much as we caution the police as well, the youth need also to take caution because, gentlemen, you do not know the kind of stress these people are going through. They can shoot you. So take care of your life. Take responsibility. Be peaceful. Peaceful does not mean you go and taint the police.
And before I give Senator an opportunity, I have an update that the Cabinet Secretary for Interior and National Administration, that's Kipchumba Murkomen, was within the CBD earlier this morning just to inspect what exactly is happening there, and we have some pictures there. He was within the city center meeting police officers to check the state of security and plans to ensure the city is safe. In anticipation of the planned demonstrations, the CS interacted with security personnel attached to Harambee House offices before walking to meet the Inspector General of Police, Douglas Kanja, at his Jogoo House office. On his way, the CS met and interacted briefly with law enforcement officers patrolling the streets and ordinary citizens walking to their various places of work. And you can see him there, accompanied by former Acting Inspector General of Police, Gilbert Masengeli. And they're talking to a number of officers who spent the night in the streets of the city in anticipation of the events of today. So far, nothing much is happening. But Senator, on this same question of who takes responsibility, we saw last year, following the events, eventually the then IG of Police, Japhet Koome, had to lose his job. Do you think going forward, there should be better crackdown, especially on issues of police brutality or excesses, that people need to take personal or individual responsibility?
Thank you. And let me start it from there. That Lotte is saying that Lagat, people are paying for Lagat's blood for nothing because he just made a complaint against Ojwang and those that have made some social media posts against him. And it's good that you have mentioned that Japhet Koome lost his job last year, not because he shot anybody, but because he took political responsibility. I would call it political responsibility. The question is, why is it that Lagat cannot take political responsibility like Japhet Koome did last year? I mean, those who fired Japhet Koome, why don't they fire Lagat? If they want to treat all Kenyans, equally, and you cannot exonerate Lagat from the killing of Ojwang. And why do I say this? Because Lagat was a complainant. Lotte here wants you to believe that he did things in the legal way. But tell me, and Lotte here is a politician, and I know he's attacked on social media in Kacheliba all the time. Tell me anyone who would want to have a young person arrested just because they made a negative comment about you on social media. Why did Ojwang commit any other crime apart from what Lagat had accused him of? Why was he tortured for just a social media post? It's because Lagat gave orders. And that's why Lagat today should not only have been fired from the police force, he should actually be one of the accused persons for the murder of Albert Ojwang. Because, I mean, Ojwang, the only crime Ojwang committed was making that social media post. And ideally, that is nothing for somebody, in public office. But then the torture had to happen because it was against a senior police officer. This police officer must, you cannot say that he is innocent and people are paying for his blood for nothing. So people should take responsibility of those. I mean, when there was Linturi, for example, was accused of having been, because he was CS during the fake fertilizer scandal. I mean, it is not Linturi who went and manufactured this, but he was in charge of the ministry. So people must take responsibility. But because you keep cutting me short, because of course you need to report what is happening in the city of Nairobi, Lotte said something that I found very irresponsible. And these are one of the most sober legislators that I know, especially from the Rift Valley. He says that commemoration doesn't have to happen after 1 year. Why did it happen even after 1 month or after 10 years? Lotte, come on. You know that even birthdays are celebrated on an annual basis You don't celebrate a birthday every month. I was born on the 6th of October. I cannot celebrate my birthday every 6th of November, 6th of December, or after 10 years. Just a minute, you'll get your time. So, I mean, let us be people, let us talk like people who live in Kenya, and let's not forget about or rubbish the traditions of our country. We do commemorations, even those who do commemoration for marriages. Do commemoration for years, the date on which, they got married. And so I thought that was a bit below Lote's standing to claim. Then he said that people are supposed to seek for permission before you demonstrate on the streets. I mean, which government, which police service would give you permission to demonstrate? That would effectively be, illegalizing demonstrations. You can never get the permission to demonstrate, and that's why the Constitution provides that you only need, like you guided him, to notify the police, not to get permission, because the police will never ever permit anybody to do demos. And Lote, I want to tell you. You read a newspaper, something there, and said that the people are afraid that their properties will be looted. And yes, but these properties will not be looted by the demonstrators. They'll be looted by the goons brought to the city of Nairobi by Sakaja, by Kamket, your neighbor, who has promised that he's going to bring some Pokot youths. Those are the people who do this looting, not the demonstrators. And those are the people the police should take action against. Unfortunately, this happened last week and no action has been taken. So it is not the demonstrators that, destroy property and lives. It is lives are destroyed by the police, and the demonstrators destroy property. And Fred, we must also say that this is a culture that was birthed by William Ruto recently when he made the Nairobi tours. Everybody knows that ahead of him and behind him, there were goons who would attack women, even do some indecent acts to women, loot property. Nobody doesn't know that, and nobody dared arrest those people because they were the president's men. That is when goonism in Nairobi was born. And when he was doing tours of Nairobi city, and everybody knows what happened. There was a massive loss of property, massive violation of human rights, and these were the president's men. No police would have been able would touch him. And then Lote again, please, my brother. When you say that, youth here do some very funny things, they should not unmask the police. Remove the police. First of all, the police, and I'm glad, Fred, you have, referred that particular court ruling, that the police should not be masked. They should not wear hoods. We should be able to see the faces of the police officers. If we have to, then, as Lote agrees, if we have to make them face face the law on an individual capacity, then they must not be masked. But I'm not telling the youth to go and, remove the uniform of the police. But if any, overreaching youth does that, he or she should be arrested, not shot. That's the basic. Let the police arrest such a person and take them to court so that they can face the law. There is no place for the police to shoot an unarmed civilian, even if they are breaking the law. And that must be made very clear, that even if a civilian is breaking the law, the police, unless this particular lawbreaker is armed, the police have no right to kill or to shoot any particular civilian. They should arrest the same and take them to court. That should be very clear.
It's exactly
There's no
3
place
minutes.
for shooting a Kenyan.
It's exactly 3 minutes past 8. Let's take another short break. We'll be back to continue this discussion. It is the 25th of June, 2025, 1 year later since the events of June 25th, 2024, when young Kenyans, popularly known as Gen Z, went out to the streets to protest, among other things, the finance bill of 2024. We'll be right back.
Equip Africa Institute.
world is changing every day, and so should we, for the better. Each week, we tackle the big why, the question that should be on everyone's minds. Why isn't this fixed yet? Deforestation, global warming, and the adverse effects of climate change. The future isn't just something that we inherit, it's something that we create. Join us on The Green Fix as we tell the stories of those who refuse to give up. When it comes to fixing the planet, there is no time to waste. Join me, Shiksha Arora, on Thursdays at 9 p.m. on The Green Fix as we look into the big why, you and I.
For comprehensive information and education on your health, Body Garage is here.
Don't allow anyone to pluck out your good tooth as long as it is strong and stable.
Cancer doesn't start today and you get the symptoms tomorrow. By the time you pick it or the time it is manifesting in you, probably will be there about 5 to 10 years.
Welcome back. You're still watching Morning Cafe on this 25th of June 2025. A year later, following the events of June 25th of 2024, when young Kenyans went out to the streets in protest of, among other things, the Finance Bill 2024, which resulted in the death of at least 10 young Kenyans. Today, the demonstrators are doing their demonstrations in commemoration of those who lost their lives, those who got maimed, and those who are still missing 1 year later. I'm still in studio with Titus Lote, MP Kachiliba, and Senator Joe Nyoto of Murang'a. The headline on the front page of the Star talks about it being a big test for Ruto and police over demos. We focused a lot on the police. Let's talk about the president and how he has handled this issue so far. 1 year later, he still appears very reluctant to discuss the events of that day. I remember the very first statement he made after the precincts of parliament were breached was a very strict, let me say, angry statement, which he later toned down from a day later. Do you still believe, Bwana Lote, that that should be the way the president is dealing with this issue 1 year later?
Well, first of all, let me just clarify so that Senator does not think that I made statements that are not right. First, issues of giving notice to the police and getting approval is actually under our penal code. You know, when we promulgated our constitution, we did not write away our penal code. Our penal code still stays. Our penal code is very clear. You notify the police, and the reason why you notify the police is so that you also get security. And that notification also specifies the area where you're going to pass so that you get police security. And you've seen this when the health practitioners do their demonstrations in town. Very peaceful. They come to parliament, they raise their flags, they go to the ministry, they tell us what they need, their salaries to be increased or not to be cut. And that has been actually how demonstration is supposed to be. And you will see in front there's a police car. At the back there's a police car. That is what demonstration is all about. So the penal code is very clear that you notify the police and you get to be given the approval. Tell me if at any point we've written all our penal codes. If you look at what Kanja even said yesterday.
Any provision in any penal code or act where that defies the constitution is null and void.
But the main constitution has not said anything about you not be given an area. So anything that is silent in the main constitution is actually gotten from the other laws.
If the provision is that you have the right, then that constitution means it has already given
it has the right, but it says within the law. Can you read the article number 37, Fred? It says within the law.
Every person has a right, peaceably and unarmed, to assemble, to demonstrate, to picket, and to present petitions to public authorities.
Yes.
Full stop.
Continue.
Full stop.
Limitations. There are limitations, Fred.
Unless you want me to go to freedom of association.
Okay, go to the limitation. Can I read for you also? Mm-hmm. Let me read to you what it says. It says, Article 37 of the Constitution of Kenya, 2010, guarantees the right to assemble, demonstrate, picket, and present petition to the public authorities, provided these actions are done peacefully.
That's an explanation.
And unharmed. The right is fundamentally, the right is But as well, the right is a fundamental freedom, but it is also subjected to limitation as prescribed by the law, ensuring...
Are you reading an explanation or the provision by the Constitution, the article itself?
I'm reading the explanation for it.
Okay.
The right is a fundamental freedom, but is also subject to limitation as prescribed by the law, ensuring it is exercised responsibly and within the bounds of the law. Okay. The Constitution is the supreme law, but we've got other laws that build into the Constitution. The penal code is a law. And if you look at what Kanja even said yesterday, he said, the National Police Service shall at all times lawfully and firmly prevent any breach of peace. An authorized person trust refrain from accessing protected areas under the Protected Areas Act. That's also part of the law. And he quoted it, and nobody has disputed it. Mm-hmm. It basically means, as much as the Constitution prescribes, the Constitution just speaks of a statement, but there are other backing to this, and the penal code backs up this statement. So that aspect, I was not false when I said you need to also notify the police and be given the rights to demonstrate. It is your right.
It's an issue of approval that...
the approval, yes. Because the penal code, the penal code, go and read Act 42 of the penal code.
When it is a right, it is already approved. You've already been given the permission.
It is a right, but the penal code has limit. There is no right that is absolute. Rights have got limitations, Fred. We have to agree with that. Even God, when he said, you shall not do this and this and this and this, he said, if you do that, you get punished. You go to hell. That basically means everything in this world, even God himself, Sir God himself, actually have given you rights and limitations to that right. The second thing is, when I say unmasking the police, I don't mean the police need to mask themselves. You know, when you are doing demonstrations in the city, you've seen the youth taking back the tear gas canisters and throw it back to the police. The same people that are throwing back the tear gas canisters to the police are masking themselves so that they don't inhale the tear gas. The police are human beings. They are also supposed to mask themselves against the tear gas that is being thrown back to them by the demonstrators. So that is the masking that I was talking about. And that is the masking that was shown in the media. That's the masking I wanted people to see. And this policeman did not shoot this lady. You saw this lady. It was in the media. So I did not see that the police need to shoot. In any case, I'm one person that will say it is illegal, it is wrong to kill a person. And I will tell this to the police. Your responsibility is to protect, not to kill. Okay. But I advise the youth, please do not provoke to those levels.
Back to my question.
I will come to your question. Mm-hmm. The other thing is about the commemoration. In my community, if somebody died, the commemoration is after a month. There are commemorations that are done after 10 years. Jubilee, annual Jubilee, whatever, Jubilee, Golden Jubilee, or whatever. Those things are done, it's not prescribed anywhere in the law that says it's only at the year that you're supposed to do that. Why not a month like in my community? When somebody dies, after a month is when you gather and say, we call it Kila Kukaran, basically meaning now everything is made forgotten and the new things come. Fred, back to your question, where you say that it seems the president, right?
It's a big test for the president and the police. We focused a lot on the police.
Yes.
Let's focus on the president and his action or inaction since 25th of June, 2024, up till today.
The first action that the president did is, the president called the agencies. In fact, there is no president that has ever gone to a virtual meeting with the agencies. You remember, the president had a meeting with the agencies, and he had that lengthy talk with them. I think it was in hours with them. So that was the first thing to address the plights of the youths. And unfortunately, and everybody agrees, you included, that the youth never organized themselves so well to come into government and be able to give the changes that they desired then. And at this, we saw the young people that rose up in the media, we saw them, and people thought those were the leaders. But finally, the consumer was called what? Those young men.
Kasmuel.
Yeah, Kasmuel and others. Finally, you saw them crumbling because the youth had no structure. And I think the president, in that talk, asked them to organize themselves in structure so that they can give you a responsibility to be able to take up the responsibilities and leadership. They did not. So that was the first thing the president, I think, did, which was very spectacular and unique about this president. The other thing is the president listened to the youth. The youth told the president, please, can you fire your cabinet so that you can be able to bring in your blood? I think the president fired entirely the cabinet for some time before he constituted the cabinet. Now we've got even the technical experts from now the broad-based government, and you can see the government moving. So I think somehow we can falsify the president for having kept quiet, but I think he's been able to engage the youth unlike any other president anywhere. So we can say probably he needs to do more for the youth, but at least he has shown that he wants to listen to them.
Okay. Senator, the president has been highly criticized for going back on some of the things he promised the youth in the immediate aftermath of the events of June 25th last year. He gave an instruction that even state officers should not be involved in harambes. Now we're seeing something new called empowerment, where senior state officials walk around with bundles of millions of shillings, dishing out. Same things in churches. Harambes in churches have returned, and all these things. And one wonders, was the president genuine in some of the promises he made in the immediate aftermath of June 25th last year?
The answer is the president is never ever genuine about any promise. So it's not just the promises he made last year. And you know, I would have wanted you to ask Honorable Lote about harambes by public officers. I know he wouldn't want to comment about that, because who was the first person to break that particular directive? It was the president himself. When he donated, was it 20 million in a church in Kasarani? The problem with the youth last year was about what you have told Honorable Lote about, about people in the cabinet showing opulence and that kind of thing. But then, of course, they take from the president, because that's what he does. I mean, he's giving out cash everywhere. Today, the new Mr. Moneybags is a deputy president. Of course, you know that between him and the president, they are contributing about 100 million in 1 week, and all of it in cash. And these are the issues also. You know, apart from, allow me to go back, to take you back a little. Apart from the whatever, you know, you had asked about closure. Apart from approaching these parents, many in the families of those that lost their loved ones, I think it would also help much if the president addressed the youth, the issues that the youths have been raising. And one of it is that, opulence. Lotte here is making some very, some arguments that are very, just very convenient. That the president listened to the youth, they told him to fire his cabinet, which he actually did. Yes, he did it momentarily, but most of the people, especially those that had shown opulence, led by Honorable Murkomen, of course, he was one of the people that the youth had a big problem with, his opulence, of course, bounced back to cabinet. And so for Lotte to say that the president listened to the youth, of course, he's very economical with the truth, and it is deliberate, and he knows that. Because the people who had that opulence, remember, not every other cabinet secretary had exhibited or had displayed opulence. It was basically people like Murkomen, people again, others who are not in the cabinet, people like Sudi, who are still, living in opulence, and nobody didn't see how his Kapsaret empowerment was compared to some other people, especially from a region, who bring our people beans, while Sudi is empowering, giving his people empowerment. So, I mean, the president, to answer your question, does not keep any promise. And I would challenge Honorable Lotte here to tell me or to tell us any promise that President Ruto ever kept, especially to the youth. And these are the issues that we are having a problem with. And I have heard the Honorable Lotte also talking about that the youth crumbled, and he has mentioned one youth called Kasmuel, that the youth movement crumbled because it did not have any structures. I mean, nobody doesn't know the operations of President Ruto. President Ruto believes that everybody has a price. And I believe that this young man also, quoted his price, and I think it was settled. And that's why he abandoned the youth cause and that kind of thing. And, we also saw him sending some 2 million Kenya shillings to the father of the late Albert Ojwang, because Ruto believes that money can buy everything, that money can buy loyalty, that money can buy love, that money can do anything. Unfortunately, you know, there are people who can stand with their principles, whether you pay them or not. And so I think it's important that the president leads by example. I mean, the president is showing corruption. You don't need any evidence to show that the president is corrupt and that he's looting this economy. Where do you get 100 million shillings in 1 year while your salary is about 1 point something million? Of course, we know people will tell us that the president is also a businessman, he rears chicken. What we want to see then, if this is money coming from his genuine business and not from corruption. First of all, we want to see the president making contributions via checks, you know, that he draws a check, from his account, so that we can see this money is coming from his account. Remember, all these cash, all these contributions are in cash, Fred. And that is something that should be very worrying. Because if it were from their businesses, which is what people who are supporting Ruto are telling us, that the president also does business, the deputy president also does business, let people show us. This is the president's account in Kenya Commercial Bank. This is the amount that he was paid after he sold eggs from his poultry farm. This is what he received from Amaco, his insurance company. And this is what now you can see the checks he drew for this particular church. This is another check that he drew for this particular empowerment program in Kapsaret or somewhere in Nyeri. These are, you know, but the fact that they are ferrying hundreds of millions, tens of millions or hundreds of millions in cash is very worrying. And remember, Fred, we also have some regulations by the central bank. You cannot just withdraw like 5 million in cash. I mean, there will be very many questions. Whom do you want to pay this money? Why don't you want to pay them via a bank transfer, an electronic bank transfer, or by check? I mean, where do they even get this money? I mean, how do they withdraw this money? And let us see the accounts they withdraw from for accountability, so that the president, when he talks about corruption, because I can tell you the president has no moral authority to talk about corruption, because he is the number one, he tops in corruption. If he wants to prove that he's not corrupt, let him show people the statements from his banks. We don't want to see the balances, because I know they are obscene balances. But let us see that there were these transactions in his account here, in this other account there. Let us see, Kidura Kindiki's, some statement. Let us again not see the balances, because they are obscene. But let us see, this is what came in from this particular business, from this particular customer. This is what left the account and went to this particular, program. Otherwise, let them stop offering lip service to Kenyans. This is what is angering and annoying the youth. I was in Kenyatta yesterday, Fred, if you allow me, to see Boniface Mwangi. Of course, I didn't publicize it, because I don't think that publicizing that you went to see, a sick person in hospital is ethical. But what I want to talk about it is, I talked to the nurses that I found there in the ICU of Kenyatta National Hospital, and they were telling me that they were very worried about today. Why? Because if it goes the way it has been going, they know they will be forced to receive patients from blunt trauma and that kind of thing. And their greatest worry was that there was no, as of yesterday, there was no ICU bed available in ICU in Kenyatta. And then, can you imagine, I asked them, why wouldn't we have enough? Because they told me they have about 26. Why wouldn't we have even 1,000 here? Oh, well, they told me, it's about resources. An ICU bed is not just a bed. I mean, every bed is manned by a nurse. There has to be somebody, about 3 particular employees, and the funds are not there. Then you tell the youth of this country that you are contributing 100 million every week to some funny empowerment programs where wananchi do not even know who ends up with that money and where it goes. These are an insult to our youth, and that is why our youth are this mad with this particular presidency. And so, I mean, let these issues be addressed. And this is what is going to answer your question. This is what is going to bring closure to the youths. Otherwise, you know, police brutality, you know, threats about the rights of the police, you know, saying you can even compensate the dead ones. That is not the ultimate. The ultimate is to address the issues the youths are raising, which is opulence, corruption, job opportunities for them, better health care afforded by everybody, and the issues are there. A better education system that anybody can go through university, can take university education, whether or not their parents are rich or poor, and that there is equity in the distribution of any opportunities, any job opportunities that arise in government and other places. And that again, when we have those infamous foreign jobs, that we don't only get youth from the Rift Valley being taken to Switzerland and Germany and the rest of those good places, while some youth from other regions are only taken to Saudi Arabia, where they are mistreated by the employers there. So we want the youth who want to see this equity. The youth who want to see a more responsible president and government. The youth who want to see better expenditure, of the funds that their parents raise through taxes.
All right. And as we come to the end, even as you make your final comments, Panalute, it's about the demeanor of the president. Listening to him yesterday while he was addressing, and I think the ceremony was to award the winners in various categories of sports coming from the police services, because Kenya Police Football Club won the Kenya Premier League. But looking at the demeanor of the president, he mainly addressed the police service, but he appeared agitated and a bit frustrated. That is the same way he appeared on 25th of June last year when he made his first appearance on TV to condemn the events of that day. Of course, he mellowed hours later. Do you think this should have changed at least a year later so that he may have handled this commemoration slightly different, as you make your final comments?
Well, I think you've put it right, Fred, that the police won a trophy, so the president then had the right to go and talk to them. I think if they never won a trophy, probably we will not see the president yesterday addressing them. So there was an opportunity which was created by sports for the president to address the police. In terms of the demeanor, I think that is a personal perception. Probably what you perceive of a person is not what I perceive of the person. Probably you saw a demeanor of a person that is angry. Probably I saw a demeanor of a person that is not ruthless, but truthful to what he once achieved today. What I will actually say is I will not want to discuss his demeanor, because I am not a psychologist to analyze his demeanor or how he dresses or what he speaks. I only listen to what he says. I think what I can be able to speak about Fred is what the president said, not his demeanor. Two, I think because I don't think you will give me any other time, I would really wish that the president, after today, creates a time to have a forum to discuss matters with the youth directly. Like what he did during the Gen Z's revolution last year, he could then make it programmatically correct for him to be able to meet the youth and be able to structure the youth in a manner that they can be able to listen to them. Because we cannot ignore the youth any longer. The youth are here for this country. And we are here, we're leaving this country to the youth. And unless we also listen to the youth and be able to address their issues, then it might not work well for us in future. So we'll ask the president to create this time for the youth continually, so that the youth can be meaningfully engaged. The last one is, I will also ask that as we go to the commemoration today, let us be peaceful. Let us not try to provoke so that we are hurt. Because when we are hurt, the financiers of this thing will be very happy. They will only give you crocodile tears, but they will use your names to propagate their political interest. So do not be a victim of this. Just commemorate peacefully. And I'll ask the police, please do not be used by anybody. Do not kill anybody. Do not maim anybody. Do not hurt anybody. Let's be peaceful. If we all be peaceful, we can all go to the streets of Nairobi and hurt not even a fly in Nairobi, not even a tree, not even a road sign. If we are destroying what Professor Gaja put on the street to collect the darts and then Nairobi become dirty. We are the very first one to say Nairobi is very dirty. If we are burning tires on our roads and killing and destroying, making potholes in our roads, and then we start saying Nairobi has got potholes, I think we also need to be responsible in our demonstration. That's why the Constitution allowed us to be responsible. So responsibility is what I'm asking for, and also asking the police for restraint. Do not use force. Do not misuse the firearm that you've got. Finally, I will want to tell you, if you can tell you a story. Last year in July, I went to Dubai, and as we were walking on the supermarket, I saw 3 ladies following me, Arab ladies. And I stopped and I spoke to them. I asked them, what is it that you're following me in the supermarket? And they said they wanted to speak to me because they thought I was coming from Southern Sudan, probably because I'm dark. And I said, I'm coming from Kenya. And they say, okay, can we talk? We talked, and one of them was a chemical engineer. And they told me there are 16 of them sleeping in a 4x4 room in Dubai, and they are refugees from Sudan. And that their parents were in Egypt. I've got even their contacts. Their parents are in Egypt, they cannot communicate. And they say, we are the youth that removed al-Bashir from power. Because we thought out of al-Bashir, Sudan was going to be good. But now we are refugees in Dubai. I even bought them shoes because they had slippers, and they told me, can you help us food and shoes? We bought them that. And they said, we have seen this thing in Kenya. Us as Sudanese, we are praying if al-Bashir can come back and Sudan goes to where we were, we will be happy than being refugees. I want to also ask the youth in this country. We might think that we are hating the president, and so we want to ban this country so that we get it better. It can never be better. Libyans were told Gaddafi was bad when they were good, getting free electricity, free water, free facilities. They were told he is bad, and they believe that if they kill him, they're going to get a better Libya. Are we getting a better Libya now? No. Okay. So sometimes we might hate something until when it is done, then we realize it was gold. It is gold until it is gone. I think we also need to look at that as youths. Let us be responsible. This country is in our hands. There's no other person that is going to change this country apart from us.
Thank you, Bwana Lote, and Senator.
Thank you very fast. First of all, Lote today is not the Lote that I know. He's inviting you now to redefine some words like happiness and anger. I mean, when somebody is angry, anger and happiness are not relative words. I mean, when somebody is angry, he's angry anyway. It's not about, he cannot say that he doesn't want to discuss the demeanor of the president because maybe he didn't think he was angry. An angry person is an angry person, regardless of who is looking at them. And, you know, he has compared Ruto to about the Sudanese ladies and that kind of thing, Ruto to al-Bashir and Gaddafi. Of course, you cannot have a worse Kenya by removing Ruto. I mean, you cannot compare Libya to Sudan. I mean, Kenya has seen better times. And so why people are so much opposed to Ruto is because he is actually, you know, bringing down our country, and we have seen a better country before. And so you cannot compare Gaddafi and Bashir and maybe the recent Kenyans, but you could remove Ruto and end up with a worse, you know, president or a worse nation where you could even become refugees. I can assure you, and those that are watching, that removing President Ruto would be good for Kenya. It can never be. I don't think we can have a worse leader. But anyway, just to talk to our police officers, tell them, like you have said here severally, that as you pull the trigger, please know that you will be held accountable as an individual, and your seniors will not be there to defend you when the law finally catches up with you. So the police, we know you have you have your own heads. Please use them. Don't just take orders. I mean, if you catch somebody breaking the law, please arrest them. Don't pull the trigger, because it will put you into a very bad situation now and in the future. For President Ruto, we want to tell him that you cannot rule us by force. The police will also get tired, and remember, you have also invaded their payslips. And I want the police also to look at their payslips before they take orders from their seniors. And President Ruto to know that there is a time that comes and people say enough is enough. So one thing that we do not expect is to see any killing of any Kenyan youth or any Kenyan. The police must act responsibly. The police must quell these, must arrest those that break the law and not shoot anybody. There is no provision in our law. There is no place in our law where the police are allowed to shoot somebody dead, or but they can immobilize whoever they find it. But the ideal thing is to arrest some of them, are arrested and made to face the law. Otherwise, for the youth, I tell you, this is your country. You have a right. You have more time to live in this country than everybody else that is older than you. You have to stand up for your rights, but you must do it in a peaceable manner. But nobody should ever intimidate the youth of this country. It is your right. This is your country, and you are here by right. You are not here at the whims of President Ruto and his government. You must stand up for your rights, but be peaceable as you do that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Senator. We have live pictures from Mombasa. It would appear action has already started there. A few protesters on the street walking side by side with police, and nothing is happening. I think the interaction is what probably we were hoping for, that the police would provide security for the peaceable and unarmed protesters in various parts of the country, even as we anticipate more action in Nairobi today. Gen Z Revolt 1 year later. This is a conversation for the entire show today. After this, we're going to be having younger Kenyans in studio to discuss what they're looking forward to today, even as we can see demonstrations have already started in other parts of the country. Thank you so much, Senator Joe Nyoto of Murang'a and Titus Lote, MP Kacheliba, for giving us your time this morning and giving us your opinions on this very important issue that has covered most of our dailies. Big test for Ruto, police over demos, 1 year on, bullets, blood and tears, that's a star. A luta continua, that's the standard. The ones we lost, the Daily Nation, giving names and pictures of the people who died last year, and on the People Daily, why Gen Z blood will haunt Ruto. Taifa leo itakuwaje? Ni swali, the anxiety as we anticipate the events of today. You're watching Morning Cafe. My colleague Anodida will be back to continue this conversation. My name is Fred Indemuli. See you after the break.